Well friends, in this video, let's read a famous short poem by William Shakespeare, Sonnet 29, the 29th sonnet by William Shakespeare. Well, William Shakespeare, he was born in 1564 and died in 1616. He was a famous English poet and dramatist. He was born at a place called Stratford-upon-Avon. Avon is a famous river, and Stratford is located, it is situated on the banks of the river Avon. That is why the place is called Stratford-upon-Avon. Well, William Shakespeare is fondly called the Bard of Avon. The Bard of Avon. Bard is a poet. Bard of Avon, the poet of Avon, the famous river in England. Well, concerning his literary output, William Shakespeare's literary output, his complete works, he has authored around 38 plays, 3 long poems, and 154 sonnets. You would remember some of his famous plays, for example, Hamlet, King Lear, Othello, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, and these plays are, well, these are very famous. Now, let's read the poem. Sonnet 29.
When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast estate, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy contented least, yet in these thoughts myself almost despising, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings.
Well, this is the short poem. Have a look at the poem. How many lines are there? Look at the poem. How many lines? 14 lines. You know what a short poem with 14 lines is called? It is called a sonnet. A sonnet is a short lyric poem having 14 lines. Look at this particular poem. Well, it contains 14 lines, and look at the structure. It is well structured. It has 4 parts. First 4 lines, second 4 lines, third 4 lines, then the final 2 lines. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2. So 4 in stanzas, a stanza containing 4 lines, it's called a quatrain. Now, there are 3 quatrains and 2 lines, a couplet. So 3 quatrains, 3 stanzas of 4 lines, and a couplet, a stanza of 2 lines. So that would make 14 lines sonnet. This is the structure of a sonnet written by Shakespeare, which is known as a Shakespearean sonnet or an English sonnet. Well, there is a different type of sonnet as well. Well, coming to the poem as such, well, though a Shakespearean sonnet has 4 parts, for example, 4 stanzas, 3 stanzas of 4 lines each, and a couplet, a stanza of 2 lines. Well, in this case, in this poem, it's slightly different from the other Shakespearean sonnets because it can be thematically, when you look at from the point of view of theme, it has 2 parts. For example, the first 2 stanzas, 4 plus 4, the first 2 stanzas form one section, and the second 2 stanzas, 4 plus 2, it forms another section. Well, as far as the first section is concerned, we know that, the poet, he describes he gives expression to a problem. This is how it starts. Look at the poem. Look at the first stanza. When in disgrace with the fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state. In disgrace. He is in a very, very pitiable condition, the poet. I think the poem, this poem might be autobiographical. Is it autobiographical? Well, this sonnet was written around the year 1592. Now, in 1592, well, he had established himself, William Shakespeare had established himself as a poet in London. In 1592, something happened in London. Number one, all the playhouses, the theaters, they were closed because of the Great Plague, something like, a pandemic, the Great Plague. All the playhouses in London were closed and he had lost his job. He was jobless. Number one. Number two, his contemporaries, Shakespeare's contemporary poets and playwrights, for example, Robert Greene called Shakespeare. Well, Shakespeare is an upstart crow beautified with our feathers. This was an insult to a person like William Shakespeare. An upstart crow. He is compared to a crow. A crow is usually considered as a dirty, an ugly bird, a dark, ugly bird. He is an upstart crow beautified with our feathers. So he had no friends and he had no job. So he was in disgrace. He was out of favor with two things. Number one, luck. He was unlucky because he had no job, no income. Number two, no friends. People started insulting him. So these two things, maybe it's a reference to these two. In disgrace with the fortune and men's eyes, what do I do in such a condition? No money, no friends, completely, in an unfavorable situation. In such a situation, what shall I do? I all alone beweep my outcast state. This miserable state, this pitiable condition, I beweep, I just cry, I lament, I all alone lament my miserable condition, my miserable situation, arising out of, lack of friendship and loss of, a favorable financial position. No, he has no money, he has no friends. So I weep all alone. And trouble deaf heaven. I knock at the door. I knock at the door of heaven. But heaven, God, he is deaf. He is not ready to listen to my grievances, my complaints. I have things to tell him. I have worries. I have sorrows. I'm complaining to God. But God has turned a deaf ear to my complaints and troubled deaf heaven with bootless cries. I cry bootless, useless. My cries are useless because God doesn't listen to my complaints, my grievances. Troubled deaf heaven, and look upon myself and curse my fate. I look upon myself and I curse my fate. I just curse myself. I pity myself. I cry all alone. I pity myself. This is the first stanza. Look at the second stanza. Look at the second quatrain. Wishing me like to one more rich in hope. Wishing me, I wish I were like, some of my friends who were more rich in hope, who were highly optimistic, who were in a better position, featured like him. I wish I were like him. I wish I were, more beautiful, more attractive like him with the friends possessed. I wish I were like him. I would like him, who has a lot of friends. I wish I were like those people who were, who were enriched with, who were blessed with more friends. A lot of friends, a lot of money, a lot of wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring that man's art. I wish I were like him who was more talented, desiring this man's art. He was more talented. Those people were more talented. I wish I were like them. And that man's scope, their favorable condition. I wish I were like him. I wish I were like the man who was more talented. I wish I was like the man, who had more friends, desiring that man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy, content at least, in a situation like this, with no friends, with no money, well, with what I most enjoy, with the things that, I used to enjoy most, now, content at least, with what I most enjoy, with the things that I used to enjoy most, now, content at least, they give me no satisfaction, no pleasure, no happiness. Now, look at the third stanza. Yet. So this is my situation. No friends, no money. And I wish, I feel jealous of my friends. My friends who are better placed, who are better talented, who are, who are luckier than myself. Yet. So in a situation like this, yet in these thoughts, when I was struggling with these thoughts, such thoughts, such bad thoughts, such bad feelings, well, myself almost despising. I was almost cursing myself. I was despising myself. Happily, by chance, I think on thee. So it was in such a situation. It was in such a pitiable situation that, your memory dawned on me. I started thinking of you, my best friend, my most beloved friend. I started thinking of you. I think on thee. When I started thinking on you, thinking about you, well, suddenly then, my state, my situation, it changed all on a sudden. I was very sullen. I was, very gloomy. I was in a very despicable situation, very bad situation. In such a situation, suddenly, I thought of you. Your memories started passing through my mind. Then, happily, I think on thee, and then my state, my condition, it changed all on a sudden. There was a sudden change. A sudden change. Your memory came like a magic wand. It started making wonders. Well, like to the lark. Suddenly my state of mind, my mind became like a lark, the singing bird, the bird that starts singing in the early morning. Like to the lark, my mind became like to the lark. Look at that beautiful comparison. At that time, when the poet thought of his friend, suddenly his mind, his feelings, his situation, his mental condition became like that of the lark. The lark, what does the lark do? The lark at the break of day arising from sullen earth, earth that is sullen, earth that is gloomy, dark, because it was night. Throughout the night, the lark was sleeping. The lark was asleep, the skylark, the lark that soars and sings and sings and soars. Well, that lark, it was asleep at daybreak, at dawn. Well, the lark, it lifts itself from the earth, from the sullen earth, and it flies high. It sings up in the sky. It sings and soars and soars and sings. And sings hymns. It sings beautiful melodious songs, hymns, songs. Where? At heaven's gate. Oh, it flies very high up in the sky. And the poet feels that the lark, the bird, the skylark, is flying to heaven high, and it is knocking at the door. And it sings at the gate of heaven, at heaven's gate, where you can find angels. Angels will be singing there. And along with the angels, well, the lark joins the angels and it starts singing at the heaven's gate. So his mind at that time, when he thought of his friend, when the memory of his friend dawned on his mind, well, his mind became like the skylark, the lark at break of day, arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. His mind became like the beautiful singing bird, the skylark. Look at the last two lines. For thy sweet love remembered, when I remembered, when I recollected your sweet love, when I started thinking about your friendship, when I started thinking about your comradeship, well, such wealth it enriches, it nourishes, it enriches my mind. Such wealth it brings that at that time, in such a moment, when I think of you, I become so happy. I become so uplifted that in such a moment, even if a kingship is offered to me, he says, I will say no. That then, look at the last line, that then I scorn, I despise, I hate. I just condemn it. I just say, no, I don't want. I scorn to change. I don't want to exchange. What? My state with kings. I am not ready to exchange the roles, the positions with a king. Even if kingship is offered to me, I will say, no, I don't want to become king. I am very happy in this situation because, in this situation, I am so blessed. I am so blessed with the memory of my friend. Because of the memory of my friend, I am so happy that I don't want to change positions even with a king. Well, this is the poem. How is it? What do you think of it? It's a very, very beautiful poem, isn't it? So as I said at the beginning, thematically, the poem can be divided into two sections, the first section and the second section. Well, the first section, the first is 2 stanzas. Well, the poet talks about the healing. In the poem, the poet talks about the healing power of love and friendship. Well, love and friendship, they provide comfort and optimism, comfort and hope to a person who feels hopeless and dejected. In times of hopelessness, in times of dejection, in times of frustration, well, it is the memory, the pleasant recollections of such friendship that gives us hope, comfort, and optimism. Well, thematically, the poem can be divided into 2 parts. So the first section, the first is 2 stanzas, 4 plus 4 lines. The first 8 lines, well, that section deals with it, dwells on the poet's problem. He tells us about the problems. He says, I was in disgrace with the fortune and men's eyes, he says. So, of course, those 2 things you could remember, the things that happened in London at that time. Number 1, the plague, and because of, his loss of his job, for example, he was thrown jobless because of the theaters were closed because of the plague, and also, people started making fun of him, especially Robert Greene, who said he's an abstract crow beautified with our feathers. So he had no friends. He was left without friends. He was also left without money. So he was miserable. Well, at that time, he had no friends, so he was completely dejected, alone, shunned, abandoned by everybody. Even God was not ready to listen to him. He says, bootless, my bootless Christ, deaf heaven. He calls God deaf. He cannot hear. He doesn't hear. He doesn't, listen to my grievances, my complaints. Well, his prayers are unanswered, and he curses his miserable plight. but at the same time, he's envious, he's jealous of the rich friends, people, who are gifted with friendship, money, and all those things, social position, in wealth and friendship. And the second position, well, it offers, there's a certain shift. The second section, there's a psychological relief to soothe his, agony, his misery. There's a relief. Why? What brings the relief? The relief is brought about by the memory of his friends. So the memory, the recollections, the memory of his friendship, it becomes like a magic wand. The mood of the poem is completely shifted. It's completely changed. So, well, there is sunshine, there is, birds' song, angels, heaven's gates, and all those, beautiful, cheerful things. Well, he thinks of his friend, his spirits, the poet's spirits are soon elevated. His mind, his mood becomes like that of the bird, the sweet singing bird, lark that lifts itself from the sullen earth at daybreak and sings and soars and soars and sings in the sky, up in the sky, close to the gates of heaven at daybreak. Well, the daybreak, the dawn, it becomes like, it becomes like the memory, the dawning of the memory of his friend in his mind. And the lark, the beautiful singing bird, it sings at heaven's gates. Well, it sings hymns, beautiful songs in the bird sings. So suddenly the poet, becomes completely, changed, uplifted, renewed with the hope and optimism. And in such a situation, he's not even ready to switch positions with even kings. So beautiful theme of love, is embodied in this sonnet with the exquisite poetry. Beautiful song, isn't it? So 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2. That's the structure of this Shakespearean sonnet. Now, coming to the meter, the metrical structure, the meter of the poem, usually, poets write poems, in different meters. As far as, there are meters like, for example, iambus, trochee, spondee, there are meters like this. Well, this is a beautiful meter. This poem, this lyric poem, it is musical, it is beautiful, it's melodious, because Shakespeare has chosen, he has selected, a beautiful meter that is called iambus. Iambus is, it has an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. For example, if you take, for example, Shakespeare's, William Wordsworth's famous poem, The Solitary Reaper. Alone she cuts and binds the grain and sings a melancholy strain. Look at that rhythm. It's so rhythmical. It is because of that iambus. Similarly, look at this line, that is line number 4 of this poem. Now, let me sing a line with the rhythm enabled by our iambic pentameter. Look at line number 4. Let me try. And look upon myself and curse my fate. Oh, it's tough, isn't it? Singing is a tough job. This is, so rhythmic. It is the peculiar quality of the iambus. And here, and look upon myself and curse my fate. There are 5 feet. So 1 foot here has 2 syllables. And look. So 2 syllables. That forms 1 foot. So similarly, there are 5 feet like that. So it is iambus with the 5 feet. So iambic pentameter. That is the meter. The meter that is used in this poem is iambic pentameter.
Now let's take a look at the rhyme scheme of the sonnet. Look at stanza number 1. Stanza number 1, the 4 lines. Look at how the lines end and how they rhyme. Line number 1, eyes. Line number 2, state. Line number 3, cries. Line number 4, fate. So eyes rhymes with cries, and state rhymes with fate. So it is A, B, A, B. What about stanza number 2? Hope, possessed, scope, least. It is C, D, C, D. Stanza number 3. Despising, state, rising, gate, E, F, E, F. And stanza number 4. It is brings and kings, G, G. So the rhyme scheme of this sonnet is A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, and G, G. So this is the rhyme scheme of a typical Shakespearean sonnet.
And look at the poetic techniques. The poetic techniques that Shakespeare uses. Well, there's a beautiful simile. We have seen that. Like to the lark at the break of day rising from sullen lake. The thought, his mind is compared to a lark at daybreak, at dawn. The lark that lifts itself from sullen earth, from the dark, gloomy earth, it lifts itself and it starts singing. It starts, flying high, sings and soars and soars and sings. It's like so that beautiful simile, the lark simile, that's number 1. Number 2, personification. Look at that line. And trouble, deaf heaven, line number 3. Personification, heaven, deaf heaven. Heaven, we know it's a place, but here heaven is God. So personification, because heaven is God personified. And then of course repetition. He repeatedly uses the same word. For example, the word state, of course with the slight meaning changes. He uses the word state 3 times in line number 2, for example, outcast state. Then line number 10, for example, then my state. And line number 14, then change my state. So he repeatedly uses the same words, repetition. Then there is, of course, alliteration. Alliteration is repeated use of the consonant sounds. For example, if you take, for example, line number 10. In line number 10, you can see, happily I think on thee and then, thee and then, thee and then. Repetition of the consonant, same consonant sound. That is alliteration. And there is antithesis. Look at that line number 8. With what I most enjoy, contented least. Most enjoy. And the opposite is contented least, most least. That is the antithesis, exactly the opposite. So 2 opposites put together, for the sake of effect. So most enjoy, contented least. That is antithesis. So when you look at the poem in this way, with all these poetic techniques, the beautiful, rhythm and music, because of the iambic pentameter and the theme of love, and all this, the imagery of lark and all these things, together make it an immortal piece of poetic art. So sonnet number 29. So when in disgrace with the fortune and men's eyes, it becomes an exquisite love poem that celebrates the uncanny, the supernatural, the magical powers of love and friendship. So even though structurally it is a Shakespearean sonnet, because 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2. So 3 quatrains and a couplet. Well, thematically, when you look at the poem, from the point of view of theme, you can see that it has an Italian shift, a Petrarchan shift. That is, the first 8 lines presenting a problem, and the next 6 lines, 4 plus 2 lines, of course, offering a solution. Also, it is remarkable for the elaborate use of the poem. It's well known for, it is remarkable for the use of beautiful figures of speech, such as, for example, simile, alliteration, repetition, antithesis, and personification. So altogether, sonnet number 29, William Shakespeare's sonnet 29, is an immortal piece of poetic art. So that's it. Thank you very much.